Good morning, good morning, good morning, beautiful people. It's a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday morning. Thank you guys for those of you who will join me today. We're going to rock, or we are rocking with day 105, 105 days of daily motivations for African American success. So let's jump right into it. If you're new to the barbecue, if you're new to the event, please know that the title means nothing, Daily Motivations for African American Success. And by nothing, I mean that everybody is welcome. We all need this success. The back of this book, Daily Motivations for African American Success, says if there's any power that can reverse the fortunes of race, it is character, writes Dennis Kimbro. Every thought which enters our mind, every word we utter, every deed we perform makes its impression on the innermost fiber of our being. So the innermost fiber of our being, right? It creates, in my opinion, that gives us character, that builds character within us. And as you build in your character, you begin to make better choices because your thoughts are better. They're positive, right? They're for everyone, not just yourself. They're not egotistic thoughts. Your attitude is not of an egotistic way. Um, you see me as you, and you realize that you are your brother's sister, not just his keeper. You are your sister's sister, your sister's sister, right? So not just her keeper. So it is inclusive. So let's jump right into it. I don't know if Brandon's going to be joining us today, but you guys, I'm all in it to win it. So let's talk about what this is about and why we're here every day. Daily Motivations for African American Success will help you focus on the thoughts, attitudes, and deeds that will lead you to the achievement of. I love this part. If you've been to the barbecue, you know I have to stop right here. Lead you to the achievement of your true goals. In 365 short but powerful motivations, one for each day of the year, Dennis Kimbro, author of the popular Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, leads us to discover how to use the present moment and our own gifts to transcend labels, cultivate a positive attitude, become wise enough to know when to say yes, but also when to say no, and when to look inward for life's or for answers to life's challenges. Each motivation begins with words of wisdom from such distinguished and celebrated African Americans, such as, but not limited to, Malcolm X, Marion Wright Edelman, Whoopi Goldberg, Charlene Hunter Galt, Bill Cosby, Carl Rowland, and hundreds of others. This treasure trove of practical inspiration will give you fresh, fresh, fresh encouragement every day of the year. But what it teaches you, what it teaches us, right? What it teaches me will last a lifetime. And Black Enterprise says that each affirmation in this valuable and thought provoking book takes only a few minutes to read, but it is worthy of more time for contemplation. So that is what we're doing here. That's why you're here. That's why I'm here. So let's rock into it. Let me see who's out here. My brother Mike is saying good morning. I appreciate you, little bro, my little bro. But I thank you for rocking with me this morning. So let's jump right into it. Let me get going here because again, so I'm having to do a little bit different here. The title for today is A Credit to the Race. And the quote comes from Ronald McNair, and he is an astronaut. And he says, I had heard all kinds of rumors about MIT. They used to say that even the janitors at MIT had master degrees. At first, I wasn't going, but then I couldn't run away from a challenge. I had to compete with the best. I had to compete with the best. And our passage, you guys, I'm gonna have to make sure I can see this. This page is not so bad. As I mentioned, I have a really bad copy of the book. Can y'all see it? And so some of the words are very difficult to read, but we're going to make it work. One of the best interpretations of success I have ever discovered is a training film that recounts the running of a marathon in a small town in Brown County, somewhere in USA. More than 100 runners are entered in the race, but the focus is only on three. Y'all get that, right? More than 100 runners are entered in the race, but the focus is only on three of them. The first is a young woman whose goal is to better her time by at least a few seconds. She knows that many of the marathoners can beat her best time, 3 hours and 58 minutes, slow by running standard, but that doesn't concern her. Next, we meet a young man who looks hopeful but not completely confident. Did y'all get that? Next, we meet a young man who looks hopeful but not completely confident. His idea of success is simply finishing the marathon, something he has failed to do in several attempts. He isn't interested in running a 3.50 or even a 4.50. For him, success will be crossing the finish line. The third runner is another young hopeful who has decided to go for broke. He's not sure he can win, but he is intrigued by reaching down inside to see how good he really is. The gun sounds, and all three runners break from the starting point with dozens of other entrants. Soon, they spread out along the highways of Brown County and settle into run at their own pace. They settled into running at their own pace. Who wins the race? Not any of these runners. It was a stranger, new to the area, grabs the honors. But does that mean that they all or all of the others lost? So does that mean that all of the others lost? It depends on how you look at it. Externally, there can only be one winner, but internally, everyone can win. The finish line that really matters is not the one drawn by race directors, but the particular goal set in the mind of the participant. As in life, no one needs to be a loser. The real prize is not first place, but competing in the race itself. So the real prize is not first place, but competing in the race itself. And our affirmation for the day that I'll read 3 times, one for me, one for you, and one for the people in the back. By doing my best, I'll win the race of my life. By doing my best, by showing up, right? I will win the race of my life. And one more time. By doing my best, I will win the race of my life, right? So that's what we got rocking for you today. Good morning, B. How's it going?
Hey, how you doing, sweetie? I'm good.
I'm
I'm
doing
good.
good. I'm doing good. Are we doing stream? Are you still trying to do stream? I'm going to be just a little bit here today. So,
Yeah,
do
that's
you want
fine.
to come on?
But sure, we can do it. We can do it for a little bit if you want to. But either way is fine with me.
All
It's
right.
good to
So
see
go
you out.
ahead. You could just let us know what your thoughts are about that as I get the Instagram set up.
Okay. Thank you for doing that. I came in a little bit part way. From what I got, by doing my best, I'll win the race of life. It's kind of like what we talked about a couple of days ago, where where we said if you woke up with just 80% of yourself today, then you give 100% of that 80%. Remember,
Okay.
we were speaking
Yeah.
about that. So if you're doing your best, you'll win the race of life. Um, so I
I'll
didn't get.
go. I know you caught some of it. So if you want to get your Instagram set up and I could, so we'll be
Yeah,
here
yeah.
just a bit.
That
I
I can
can go
get
ahead
my
and
people
start because
good.
I've already did it.
Okay.
So, okay. So you guys, the credit to the race, I look at this, the title. You got to give yourself credit for showing up every day. So often we put the focus on someone else. We make our life, our day, um, Our world, our decisions, our feelings, our emotions are based on others, right? And when you get to, I heard this song, I'm blessed, I'm favored. And it was the first time I think I've heard it. And it's because I know who I am. I'm blessed, I'm favored. Because when you know who you are, then you know whose you are. And there is nothing, nothing, no one can compare or compete with that. So if you just show up for the race of your life, put this in perspective of a marathon. Your life is a marathon, right? If you get up and you show up every day. And as Brandon just mentioned, if I get up feeling 80% of myself, then I'm just going to give the 80% that I have today rather than focusing on what I don't feel or what I feel like I cannot do that day. Okay, what can you do today? How can you feel today that helps you go or grow to your goals and grow through what you're going through? Because y'all, life is going to happen to us. And if you are getting up every day, signing in, clocking in to the work of the kingdom of God, you better believe it's going to happen to you. You better believe Satan is after you. And I hate to bring the word up, but the energies of the darkness of this world is after your light. And you better believe it. You better look from the north, the south, the east, and the west. You better see it coming. That thing about people saying, if you don't feel challenged and pressed through life, then you know what? You better question your destination, your present time. Because the enemy doesn't want who we already got. And that's apply that to life. How often do we get something and it's tender, it's precious? We get a new car. Don't do this to my car. And after a while, for some of us, after a while, the new car is old now. And we need another new shiny object or a new shiny person. That's not running your race. That's not running your race. So the quote says, I had heard of all kinds of rumors about MIT. They used to say that even the janitors at MIT had master degrees, had masters, right? At first, I wasn't going to go. But then I couldn't run from a challenge. I had to compete with the best, with the best. And think of yourself. If you got to compete, you got to compete with you. That's why I like golf. You play the game of golf with people, but you're playing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing yourself. So you go out, you connect, you entertain one another, but what you do and how you do it, there's no center, there's no quarterback for my brother Mike, right? There's no quarterback, there's no wide receiver. And Brandon, you said sometimes, we want a touchdown when all we need is a first down. And some days God will throw that ball and you will run down right where it is, right? You'd have to run to it. And sometimes he's just going to toss it to you and you just need to fall down right where you are in your race and get that first down and get the second down and then the third down. And pretty soon you got a touchdown in your race. In your race. So there's a lot that came from this for me, but one thing, you guys, that affirmation, by doing my best, I'll win the race of my life. Are you doing your best? When you show up with 80%, do you give 80%? Because all you can do is all you can do. Period. Period. When you show up with 50%, give all of that 50%. And have people in your life that's standing aside the marathon, right? Waiting for you to come around that curve, whether it's with your 50% or your 100%. Whether you're first to cross the finish line or you barely make it without falling out. Because it doesn't matter how or when you make it. It's that you showed up for the race and you ran the race according to your true goals, right? So over to you, Brandon.
Thank you. Yeah, so I got a chance to look at it a little bit, and I like how they teased out the three different runners, and then in the end, someone
Neither.
that wasn't even one. What'd you say?
I said neither one of them won.
and neither one of them won. So the person that actually won was a newcomer, right? And that's the external vision of success. That's for the pictures, right? But there's, to me, the winners who grew the most in that situation, right? The race of life isn't one where a finish line is determined for every single person, where we're measured on how long you live, right? Imagine if your life was measured in years, right? It's not like that. Our life is measured, um, maybe not how long the candle burned, and sometimes not how bright the candle burned, but being grateful that the candle's burning, period. And so I like the fact that everyone who was in the race was in the race for a different reason, and success looked different for each person. Each person has a different set of tools, a different set of characteristics, a different set of attributes that they had in themselves, but they were all in the same technical race. But some people were running, for confidence, or to beat their time, or to even complete the race. Like someone just to be able to cross the finish line, that was a win for him, right? And so looking that everyone doesn't have the same goals, so everyone doesn't have the same success, and people don't have the same failure. So I've heard something that the I think it was, what was it? The sins of the pious. Oh no, the good deeds of the misguided are the sins of the or the good deeds of the people that are young in faith, that are babies in faith, are the sins of the righteous, the sins of the pious in faith. So
Say that
for
one more
example,
time.
I'm probably destroying this quote, but it was like the sins or the good deeds of people who are babies in faith are the sins of people who are mature in faith, in a sense, or the pious or the righteous. I'm trying to translate it. And what that means is, for example, for example, in Islam, we pray 5 times a day, right? We pray 5 times a day. We wake up every morning and we wash, purify ourselves, same way Jesus did in the Bible, and we pray. So there are those are prayers that are required of us. Like we are commanded to pray at least those many times a day, right? To worship. We say pray, but it's really worshiping that many times a day. Now there are people that get extra prayers, so they'll wake up earlier, do 2 prayers before their sunrise prayer, and then they do their sunrise prayer, right? They wake up a while before, or they're fasting that day. They wake up and they eat a little bit of food in order to fast for the remaining of the day, and then they pray, right? And so they're fasting the whole day, and they woke up maybe an hour before prayer, right? Before the obligatory prayer. And then, so that's the righteous person. Now there's the person who hasn't woken up for prayer ever, or hasn't woken up for years in prayer. They wake up 5 minutes before sunrise. So they only have a little bit of time to get their prayer in, right? And so to them, waking up just to get that one prayer, even if it's 5 minutes before, and even if it's rushed, is a big deal for them. That's success for them. That might make their day. They might walk around the rest of the day and feel like, man, I'm really on it today, because I got up and I made my prayer, and I never get my prayer, right? And then for the person who has been doing this, who has matured in their dedication to God, if they woke up 5 minutes before their prayer and did it, that they might feel some type of way about it. Like, man, I usually am fasting on this day. I'm usually waking up to do my extra prayers. I'm usually waking up in the middle of the night to stand in prayer, what we call tahajjud. So to them, it feels like they did something bad, or not, I won't say bad, but it feels like they did something that was less than their potential, right? Less than what they knew to do. So it's like, it would almost be a sin to them, almost be a detriment to them. It's not, but they would feel that way, like, I'm a little less successful today because I didn't get my extra prayers this morning. You know, I didn't wake up early enough to get a little meal in so I could fast the rest of the day. You know, so that's what I'm saying. The the people who are basically that everyone has a different measuring stick of what success is, even spiritually. And it's not saying that they're sinning at all, because they're not. If you wake up and you did your prayer, you're fine. But it's the intention behind it, the consistency behind it. You know what's better than giving $1 million one time? Giving $25 every day of your life. The consistency of that, right? So what's better? Is it the person that gave $1 million once, or is it better the person that gave a little bit every single day? Is that counted as one deed, one good deed? And does that person get it for that $1 million, or is it multiple good deeds that you get for every time that you give a little bit of charity? So we have these, many times our ideas of success are externalized, and they're based on someone else's standard. But one of the realities that I think we can come to realize is that we define success for ourselves. We define based on what, and I'm not saying this all the time in a spiritual sense. I'm saying this in a sense of, how am I growing today? Am I growing by finishing a race when I couldn't finish the race last year? Am I growing by just getting to the race, by waking up, signing up, having the confidence? I wasn't confident enough to even put my name on the roster, but now I'm here, right? Um, it could be the person that wins the race, right? Maybe last year they came in second place, and this year they want first place, and it could mean the world to them if they made first place. But for the next person, for the person who's never competed in that way, if he wins second place or third place, he'd be very, very happy. You know what I mean? So we all have different measurements of success despite what the outside world looks at. And if we take confidence and pride and joy in the little successes that we have every single day and take account for those, right? I think we'll be in a better place, not just as individuals, but as a community. So that's
Brandon,
what I got from first
Brandon,
question.
you brought up some great points, and I'm going to come back to that, but I'm going to do something that we've not did before.
Okay.
Um, Daily motivations for African American success will help you focus on the thoughts, your attitudes, and your deeds that will lead you to the achievement of your true goals. Y'all listen to that. Daily motivations for African American success will help you focus on the thoughts, attitudes, and deeds that will lead you to the achievement of your true goals. In 365 short but powerful motivations, one for each day of the year, Dennis Kimbro, author of the popular Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, leads us to discover, right? Leads us to discover how to use the present moment, right where you are now, is more than enough, right? Is enough, right where you are now. So, how to discover and use the present moment and our own gifts. See, you've got some gifts. You can do some things in a way that I can't. I can show up to the race. I can show up to bake with you, to cook with you, to sit with you. But there's some things that you're just gifted in. I might can do them. I can show up, but you have a gift in them. Use these gifts to transcend labels. And most times the labels that you've put on yourself by way of looking at externally, right?
Could
And
that be first
processing
place,
what you
second place?
see. Right. You look externally, but you process internally, right? So to transcend those labels, to cultivate a positive attitude. Y'all, attitude is everything. Y'all remember I talked about the lady? If I wanted to buy her stuff, I wouldn't buy it. How do you show up somewhere and your attitude so stink to the people that walk up to you to buy your stuff, to put money into your pocket, right? How
Hmm.
are what that's some that's some internal external battle going on. And remember, we say you're not fighting me, you're not fighting somebody else, you're fighting yourself, right? Attitude, I think, is the first in all of this. So to cultivate a positive attitude, one that you can show up and say, "Go Good morning, ma'am. How are you doing? What can we do for you today? Not have an attitude when I show up to buy your stuff. And to become wise enough to know when to say yes and when to say no. Because there was a time I would show up to this kind of person and I would feel like I got to get this out of her. I got to figure out. And now I only do, I most times I'm going to say no.
Mm.
It's like I told a lady yesterday. She was so, my little elderly neighbor, y'all. She's so sweet. She had to cuss somebody out and she felt so bad and she kept saying, baby, I know I shouldn't have said it. I know he was shocked, but that's just a mess. She said, I go to church. I said, Jesus turned over tables. So he probably saying, God up there saying, about time you speak up for yourself and stop letting people run over you.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
So when to say yes and when to say no, and when to look inward for answers to life's challenges. Right? And sometimes you need to say hell no because it's hell trying to get you all wrapped up in their stuff. Hell no, get back. Right? I'm serious, y'all. We got to
Yeah.
get out of this
This
yes a
please
master
everybody.
kind of attitude. I'm trying to tell you, and
Mm.
no, I don't show up every day like I want to. Right? And that's okay. But what you can no longer do to me, right, is get me caught up because I'm no longer caught up in myself. It's like that song say, I'm blessed, I'm favored because I know who I am. And when you know who you are, you know whose you are.
Mm.
And you got when you do the work, it doesn't fail. It does not fail. When you show up, right? And think about the first guy.
Mhm.
Oh, the first person's a woman. I'm sorry. The first is a young woman whose goal is to better her time by at least a few seconds. So if she does that, she's the winner.
Exactly.
She's the winner. So
Exactly.
she knew what she showed up for. Why? She just said, if I just better, so her marathon was with her within herself on her prize, not somebody else's. Right. And then the second and the third, you guys can listen for that. Listen, go back and listen for that. But what do you think their routine was days before, the night before, weeks before? How did they train? The lady says, I just want to be a few seconds better than last year. How did she train? Did she think about, okay, what did I do last year that I can perfect this year to help me just be a few seconds better than my last time? Right? So what do you think their routine was? What's your routine for your marathon? For your marathon. Not mine, not Brandon's, not your husband's, not your wife's, not your sister's, not your child's, for your marathon. And then Brandon, you said something that made me think about how each of them might feel afterwards, after the race is over and the winner was announced. How did they feel? So how do you feel when you're judging your race externally?
Mm.
Oh man, I didn't do it. You miss out on the fact that you won internally because you showed up and you did what you were supposed to do according to your true goals, to your race, to your marathon. Because all you can do is all you can do. That's all you can do.
And who are you
And
trying to live up to?
that's it. Lastly, something you said made me think about my grandma. And y'all have heard this before, where and I was young, you guys, and it's so interesting and such a blessing to me when I remember the words of my elders, right? When I feel like they're being birthed over and over and over again in me. And my grandmother said to me, she said, if it convicts you, then it's wrong for you. Y'all get this. If it convicts you, then it's wrong for you.
Mm.
Right? And years later, years, like I was grown. And one day, you guys, I put on, and it was crazy because I had worn this shirt 100 times over. But I put this shirt on one day and I looked in the mirror, and it was just one of those shirts that had these big slits where your arms are showing. And for some reason that day, I was in conviction about that shirt.
Hmm.
And it bothered me to the point where I had to go take it off and put on another shirt. Well, fast forward, I wore the shirt after that, put it on some time after that, and never was convicted again by it. Right? And I don't know what all that was about, but what I do know is I heard the voice of conviction. I heard the voice
And you
of
listened.
conviction and I obeyed it.
Hmm.
I obeyed it, right? And so it goes back to the day you hear my voice. The day you hear my voice, you will know. I'm saying this, you will know whose you are. You will know what marathon to show up to. You will know what you need to do to compete in the marathon, not win based on external winning, but you will know that you know that you know that you know that you know God and whose you are, who you are and whose you are. That is giving credit to the race. So, how do you give credit to the race? Is my question that I'm going to leave with you guys. Brandon, that's all I have as we bring it to a close.
Sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, I think what's your finish line? What's your finish line? And based on how you, who are you winning up to in this race? What's the win for you? Right? What's that affirmation that then by doing my best, I will win the race of life? What is the finish line for you? And when it's all said and done, who are you trying to impress? Who's the big who's the big referee? Right? Is it your ego? Is it God? Who's keeping score? Is it you? Is it family? Is it the world? How does that implicate you? How does it impact you? And how does it add value or take away from your life? When I'm training and sparring, this is actually something that I learned from one of my teammates and my coach. I remember we were sparring, and my coach told me, Brandon, you're trying to win every single round in sparring. And you know, I was in the middle of sparring. I had to stop. And I looked at him like, what? What? Isn't that what we're supposed to do? He's like, you're trying to win every single round of sparring. And it threw me for a minute. And I didn't exactly understand. So I talked to him a little bit afterward. And he said, find things, specific things that you want to work on within the context of a fight, right? So, for example, I might just be working on my jab, right? I might just be working on my slip too, right? And it doesn't mean that I don't see another strike or I don't see another way to impact my opponent, right? Or to hit and strike my opponent, right? But today, this round, while we're practicing, I'm looking for one particular thing so that when the actual fight comes, I'm proficient at that one skill. So it's like building little skills, little character development skills. And so that really helped me. So I was very focused the next time I came to sparring. It wasn't like, oh, we're just fighting. It was, no, this time, okay, this is a guy that's a little bit shorter than me, but a little bit stockier than me. So I'm going to use my reach. Let me keep my jab out there on him. Let me see how well I can keep my jab out there. I can put other things into place, but that jab is the one that I want. He might hit me with this. He might take me down. He might get me with that. But did I successfully land my jab the way that I wanted to, right? And so that has really helped me to kind of itemize and hyper focus on these very particular things. So let's say we're sparring and let's say it looks like they won the round. But to me, the competition was different. The competition, the finish line was, did I establish my jab? And possibly to them, it could have been, did I win the round or did I get more takedowns than Brandon did. Their goal might be takedowns. My goal might be getting up.
Mm.
So I might not even be starting the competition until I get taken down. How fast can I get up? How proficiently can I get up? So what is your finish line? Who is the umpire? Who is keeping score? And who are you trying to live up to? And at the end, can you find success in it? Have you and if you can't, then you might not have defined success for you in the race of life. So what are you running towards? What's your finish line? That's your success, right? Make sure it's one that serves you. I think sometimes we compete in things that don't serve us just because we see other people competing, right? You know how it is when something happens, you see a whole bunch, especially black folks, you see a whole bunch of people running. What you gonna do, right? You see a bunch of people running. Oh, I'm gonna run too, right? There's a
And
thing
they could
called
be running to death, running
exactly
to the, because you're not settled in, your own thing, your own race, your own marathon. So
right.
I apologize to Dennis
I know you
Kimbro, but
gotta
I
go.
changed. No, I changed the title to this one, right?
Oh,
Why?
okay.
I can do that, right? A credit to the race. Let's change it to a credit to your race.
Mm,
Your race. Because truth be told, Brandon, it's what?
it's about you.
You. It's you.
Mm,
It's not them. It's not mama them, daddy them, sister them,
all the names,
all the nems,
M&Ms.
M&Ms. I remember when we moved here to Memphis, and we'd say mama them, my cousin them. Seriously, like
Yeah,
daily
I still
motivation
say
for
it.
African Americans to success. We have a different language. Some things they are different here, and they mean things different. But I remember someone saying, what's their name? They thought everybody's name was Nim, like them something,
Like their
what's
last
Nim?
name was them.
And they finally asked. I was like, I don't know. It's just one of those things that we just carried on. But you guys, as we close, a credit to your race. Give credit to your race today. And I want to say hello. We have
My Instagram people laughing over here about the name.
about the Nim,
Uh huh.
Mama Nim. Do they know
Mama
about the
them,
Nim?
daddy them.
Daddy Nim. Y'all, that's culture right there now. That's culture. Like I was laughing about you saying you have to nigger rig it the other
Yeah.
day. No pun intended, but that's like you gotta go with what you got. You
Yeah.
gotta go with, and that's something, as a race, you guys, y'all know we would, especially my brother, like we would get something out of, you would feel like you got nothing. And a few trips around the house, you find something to put to make this work, even food. My brother and I have certainly been there. You got, man, I see this, I see that. And we made a meal while my mama was out working, you know, trying to make it work for us. So we have this, and no pun intended, you guys. Somebody said to me yesterday, whew, I'm gonna say this because y'all, in order for us to get through this, we gotta talk real talk, right? We gotta say what we say in the dark, we gotta say it in the light. She said some of the things other races, she said something else, complain about, I call it Tuesday. Just
Mm,
it's just a Tuesday,
mm,
right? Meaning if you knew some of the struggles that we go through mentally, just because of the way that, because of the mama names, because of things like that. Not saying something's wrong with that, but we the way that I say it is, imagine some of the things that, if you're not my color, right, that you struggle with getting through every day. Maybe your father was an alcoholic, had an abusive parent, but you still cannot break away from it, right? You have to go get some medicine and da da da, and you still. Well, imagine that on top of coming from a mental slavery thought process. You just have to fight to show up.
mm-hmm.
And you got to fight to show up when you show up. And sometimes you got to fight the people who are mad because you showed up. And for
Exactly.
us, it's usually my black brother and sister and my white brother and sister that I'm fighting. I'm fighting the white ones because they saying, who the hell you think you are? And I'm fighting the black ones because they say, who the hell you think you are? You're not
Man,
supposed to be here. And
what you
then for my
said.
black sister and brother, you my competition. So I'm gonna help get you out the way. So I can go up and be in the house, in the master's house. That's that job, being that master's friend. So those are the things. That's why we need daily motivations for African American success. But not only that, we need you to understand why we go through or feel some of the things that we feel. Because we fighting ourselves, we fighting the black people, we fighting the white people. And now we fighting every other race there is too. And like the book says, the only way we can get through this, reverse the fortunes of race, is through character. That means you got to grow so that you don't judge the next black man that you walk by, that you don't hold your purse a little tighter because you think he's gonna rob you, right? Character. Character destroys that.
Mm,
So that's why I say, truth be told, it's not me. It's not my brother. It's not my sister. It's not my mama. It's you. Your character needs to grow so that you will see me being wronged and speak up for me.
mm, mm. You said something that reminded me of a James Baldwin quote. He said, "To be a Negro in this country, and to be a Negro in this country, and to be relatively conscious, is to be in a rage almost all of the time,
Mm.
like almost like a silent rage all of the time. To be Negro in this country, and to be even somewhat or relatively conscious, is to be in a rage almost all the time, because you see the distinction, the difference, the disenfranchisement.
Mhm,
You
mhm,
see
mhm.
you see the fact that in the race of life, you're starting on a back foot, or you're starting further behind the start line, uh, than people that have, privilege, or whose family may have taken, and even in our situation, right, with our family, with some of the land in Leary, Georgia, where multiple times people have tried to take that land from our family over the past 150, 200 years, right? So to the point to where some of our ancestors and their sons, the Dudley family, bought out all the ammo and guns, you know, and held down the land and fort, and posted their sons around the property to fight the KKK, because they said they were coming to take their land. And so they sat there and shot it out with them, and they didn't want no problems. But we even have situations where people have taken, like the peanut farm behind the family property used to be our family's property, but it was swindled out of a relative's uh, uh, ownership,
Illegally.
because she
Illegally.
illegally illegally, right? So would we be
Did we
right?
lose you, Brandon?
No, no. Are we good? I still see you. Okay.
Yeah, we are now.
Um.
Okay.
So like our land we've been dispossessed of land as a family in certain instances, right? So legally, what right do we have to it, right? What right do we have going back? So we're already starting at a back foot, whereas there's another family who has benefited from that
Mm.
theft, and now it's on county records saying that these people own it and all this other stuff. But that's not true. That's why I feel so connected to the indigenous people of America, to the Palestinian people, to the people that are being dispossessed by colonization or settlers, because it continues this inequity. It continues these things, but in either case, we're still starting on that race. So a credit to your race, or a credit to the race, is you getting, how do you equalize that? So we have to set different standards. We have to. I've always heard, you got to be twice as good, right? You got to be twice as good just to make it,
Mm.
right? And that's how a lot of times we feel. And I have privilege just from being a light skinned African American. I
Mhm.
see the difference. You better
Yep.
believe I see it. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I don't, you know? And so and that creates schisms between us because we're like, oh, wait a minute. So y'all just cool with him in this way, and then when I come around the block, like, oh, y'all don't clutch your purse when Brandon come around the the street, but you do it when my cousin comes.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't know my cousin was with me? No, we're together. Why are you clutching your purse? So we see those things, and it's those little microaggressions that give you this accumulation of a rage. And if we
Right.
don't deal with that, y'all, it comes out on our families, it comes out on our friends, our loved ones. It comes out on our communities and our ability or negligence of keeping those up or not keeping those up. So we have to change what is our finish line. We cannot judge our finish line based on the standards of the systems that have historically oppressed us. The
Right.
systems that historically oppress us will not give you the tools to free yourself. So you can't go to their tool shed, right, and forge your way out of this jail, out of this hell, out of this rage. The key is internal, right? Like I said as a kid, you don't know what I'm you don't know what I'm thinking, right? You remember that moment? Like I said as a child, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's like,
So
you might can make me my mouth hush, but you can't make my mind stop thinking. You know, as a child,
right.
Brandon said that. But let me say this, and we got to get out of here.
I know.
Imagine, you guys, and this happened to me just a few weeks ago, and I shared it. Imagine being the mother. I'm telling you guys, have no mothers. Just for the mothers, white, blue, green, whatever color you are, right?
Uh,
Imagine I'm driving behind Brandon and the police pulls up beside me, right? And I'm behind Brandon, who's like one car up, so he's right here. But I still, I feel this energy of oh my gosh, right? I felt it where I should feel like, oh wow, we good. Hey, police, right? But instead, I'm like, because I'm visioning him getting around me, looking over, seeing my son, and it's well, seeing Brandon in the truck, you know, and for whatever reason, just deciding I want to stop him, right? Because I've been told by police that well, it was a black police officer who did a program for me, and he was telling the kids, and this is what he said: they create things to make them to be able to stop you at any moment they want. So you could be walking, and there's something that will justify them stopping you, right? So imagine on top of everything else I have to deal with life, being a
mhm.
woman, right? Working, right? Being there for my mom, just everything. Being a grandma. Imagine how I got a grandson that I even worry about now. Now, why? Because hmm, he is so true to himself. Like he walks in a room now and owns it. He looks at someone and says, "Don't be looking at me like that," right? He tells someone, "Excuse me, but I'm trying to talk to my mama." He says after my dad gets out the car, Grandpa don't tell Tupac what to do. you know, so I have to worry about him even now because he's a 3-year old that's already 25, and just the
So
way that he responds.
but you
So,
did that.
huh?
You did that, right?
What do you mean?
You're the reason Tupac is like that.
Why?
Cause you made me like that.
Oh, well, I'm
You know
just
what I'm
saying.
saying? So I'll say this.
Imagine,
I'll say this. Look at we give ourselves. So for example, I'm not going. I've had a number of altercations with police, and I don't think any of them where if the officer was wrong, I let it be known that they was wrong. And I remember you said, "Baby, don't be dead right, right?
right?
Like don't be dead and right, you know."
Right, right.
But you
Fight the battle on the other side because in that moment, and that's just about discernment, knowing when to say yes and knowing when to say no. Because
right,
you could say no, but if you dare, baby, what good was the no? You
Right.
can't even change. You
I
can't even
understand.
change it for the next person. Because truth be told, y'all, we've lost a lot of people in this race. Trayvon Martin, we've lost so many people in this race.
Tyree Nichols. I was just with his
Right.
mom a
And
couple weeks ago.
so we only get caught up when it happens. The fight is after things happen. And the true fight is when you don't stop fighting. Because the reason it keeps happening, because we've stopped fighting. We just fight in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
We run at the race when it's happening. But the race is preparing for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Running it and what you do afterwards for
And
the
then what's
next one. So
like I have a, and this you just made me think of something. I know we got to get out of here. Um, what is the what's the goal in the race? So, for example, now with children, I'm a little bit more measured in my tones when I have situations with officers, um, because I have a responsibility and things like that that I know I have to get back to, right? But in that situation, what is the goal, right? So if I get pulled over, I get in an altercation with the police, my goal and my finish line isn't being right, isn't proving what rights I have and how this officer is taking away or infringing upon my constitutional rights, my Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, whatever. Um, Now my goal is not to show him, right, or to beat him in any kind of way. My goal is to get home. My goal is to de-escalate as soon as I can. And this should be the officer's goal as well. In many cases, I'm sure that is their goal, but it doesn't feel that way sometimes. So like we have to change. What's my goal here? If he does something wrong, okay, officer, okay. Have I been suspected of a crime? Am I being detained or am I free to go? What's the purpose for this stop? Right. And if those things are answered, then I have everything that I need for evidence later, right? And so let's not win the battle and lose the war, right? In those situations, and that's something that I've learned more recently, and I hope to teach my son that you can still be right in a righteous way. You can be right and keep your life, right? The preservation of life is paramount in my faith over in everything that we do outside of keeping the monotheism of just worshiping God and not giving that praise to any or anything else, is to preserve life. So
yeah.
what do I look like, risking my life, right, just to be right in words, right, in deeds, right? That's ego. So sometimes we have to make sure that our finish line isn't being determined by our ego, because that can delude us, right? We fall into delusions based on my ego. Oh, I didn't win first place in this race, so now I'm a failure. Whereas someone said, man, I completed this race at a better time than I did last year. So you go home feeling down on yourself, which impacts the rest of your day, the trajectory of the next time that you do your race and compete. Whereas the next person, they're motivated to come to the next race and to compete because they saw the gift of, or they had a different definition of success. So guys, we got to get up off of here. Thank y'all for rocking with us. We got people in the Instagram comments that Barack, I appreciate you. He said, don't be dead right. And you put the surprise face like, wow. He said many times when approached wrong by the police, it's best to cooperate and fight it in court as well. If a corrupt cop would want you to give, if a corrupt cop would want you to give in to your ego, all right? So that can be used against us. And in life, man, when someone cuts me off in the street, I used to get upset, because I'm like, you just risking my life. But you know what I said? Don't chase devils, because they lead right to hell. Whether it's a cop, whether it's an altercation in the streets, or whether it's anything, don't chase devils in the race of life. All right. So we're gonna get off here, y'all. I'm gonna do a very quick run through today's May 15th. Title was A Credit to the Race, and my mom, and her wisdom changed it to A Credit to Your Race. What is your race? And the quote from the distinguished African American came from Ronald McNair. the astronaut from the Challenger, who said, I had heard all kinds of rumors about MIT. They used to say that even the janitors at MIT had master's degrees. At first, I wasn't going, but then I couldn't run away from a challenge. I had to compete with the best. And the affirmation that we read 3 times, one for me, one for you, and one for the people that you're going to invite to this cookout, to this podcast. We might need to just have a start calling it like a little subtitle, in this season podcast or in this season cookout. I don't know. But we read it 3 times. By doing my best, I'll win the race of my life. So I think it's appropriate that you said a credit to your race. You switched it to make it reflective of us. Second time, say it with me if you can. By doing my best, I'll win the race of my life. And if you guys don't have the book, it's going to be at the bottom of your screen, all the way down right there. Last time, let's read it together. If you said it out externally, say it internally to remind yourself that the race is won internally. It's not always going to be seen. It's not always going to be your name on the big lights, but you can still win the race of life. So for the last time, by doing my best, I'll win the race of my life. Remember that and keep that with you today. Repeat it inside of your mental voice, and come back tomorrow and let us know if it helped. I hope that you found value in the show today. Thank you guys for rocking with us for this whole 56 minutes, for this hour. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. We look forward to seeing you. Invite somebody else to the cookout. And last but not least, if you haven't already, get the book. Get the book. Okay, mine's tethered because it's been read, y'all. It's been read. Look at that. Get the book. All right. I love y'all. Talk to y'all
Bless
soon.
y'all. Peace.
Peace.